I'm at the North Star Foundation. Chances are you haven't heard of it before, but over 100 boys and their families have. It's where they come after school every day, and it's where they spend much of their summer. Back in 2007, there was a few men in Omaha who knew that something was not right. Less than half of the boys living in the zip codes surrounding the North Star Foundation are earning their high school diploma. More than 97% are receiving free and reduced lunches. In 2007, the North Star Foundation was then created to focus on the critical unmet needs of North Omaha's young men beginning in 5th grade, with the goal of helping them grow into healthy, educated, employed contributors to the community. North Star's vision is to change lives through programming that supports, challenges, inspires, and instills a life rooted in education, self-discipline, and service to the community. Personal, family, and community-wide transformation happens right here at North Star. Now, it just didn't happen. It began with a dream. People were gathered, obstacles had to be overcome, money had to be raised, decisions had to be made. But 8 years later, here we are. It's amazing. North Star will be investing in Omaha for generations to come. Now, stuff like this, it happens all the time. Nonprofits are created, churches are planted, dreams come true, goals are met, visions become reality. But it takes trust. It takes trust in God, trust in others, and it takes trust in yourself. Faith is another word we can use, so is belief. So many of the best potential innovations, products, dreams, improvements, and services remain ideas because of lack of trust, faith, and belief in God, in others, and self. Jesus tells a story about this. It's one of the last stories he told. Again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, divided it in proportion to their abilities. He then left on his trip. So God gives us all talents and abilities, gifts and skills. You are talented, you are capable, you are blessed. God created you that way. Now the question becomes, what are you going to do about it? Is it trust and faith and belief, or is it safety and comfort? The servant who received the 5 bags of silver began to invest in the money, and he earned 5 more. The servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. But the servant who received the 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. I used to relate to the guy with 1 bag of silver. He played it safe. He didn't like risk. He probably wore suspenders and a belt at the same time. You know, it took me a while. There was a lot of missed opportunities. I saw that some of life was just passing me by. But then one day I realized he was the one who was taking the biggest risk of all. To take a chance is to risk stumbling or falling for a moment. Not to take a chance is to risk losing yourself. We are all going to miss all the shots we never take. Jesus agrees. After a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how they used his money. The servant to whom he had entrusted 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more bags and said, "Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more." The master was full of praise. "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together." The servant who had received 2 bags of silver came forward and said, "Master, you have given me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 2 more." The master said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together." We see trust, we see faith, we see belief. We see the utilization of talents and abilities and gifts and skills. And then the man who valued comfort and safety over development and possibility meets the master. Then the servant with 1 bag of silver came and said, "Master, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops where you didn't plant and gathering crops where you didn't cultivate. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here's your money back." Now, did you hear the word he used? Afraid, fear. One thing that is going to make dreams and visions and goals and hopes impossible to achieve is the fear of failure. Fear is a dream killer. Trust and faith and belief are the foundations for dreams coming true. Courage emerges from faith. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the belief that something or someone or some dream or some hope or some goal is more important than fear. Jesus gives us the truth about how destructive fear can be. But the master replied, "You wicked and lazy servant. If you knew I harvested crops I didn't plant and I gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have gotten some interest on it." As a parent of 2 boys, I would rather have them experience a broken heart than miss out on the opportunity for love. I would rather have them fail in the pursuit of a dream than fail to try to ever fulfill that dream. I don't ever want them to get to the last of their days and wonder what could have been if they would have valued faith over fear, courage over control. As a pastor, I would rather be the leader of a church who relentlessly pursues God and God's vision for us. I understand Jesus' teaching that we don't bury our resources for a rainy day. We aren't even to put them in the bank for safekeeping and get a little bit of interest. God's people are to trust and have faith in God and each other, to value faith over fear, courage over control. We may want God to prove himself so that we can trust him, but we have it all wrong. God wants us to trust him so he can prove himself. Set God-sized goals. Pursue God-ordained passions. Go after a dream that is destined to fail without divine intervention. Faith isn't going to make things easy. Faith does make things possible. Faith takes the next step even though it can't see the final destination. Never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God.
I got the dream to go to Uganda after serving locally several times, whether that be in soup kitchens or delivering presents to youth. There was always needs that we wanted to fill locally, and it gave me a great feeling to help try to serve those needs. But then I wanted to serve more, and being able to take that step to Belize and see the significant increase in need there and how we were able to fill those needs, it made such an impact. I wanted to continue to identify opportunities like that. After Craig mentioned to me the possible opportunity to go to Africa and to serve needs there, I just realized that was something I really wanted to do, and was able to run with that mission and help to get it started. When we first started planning, it seemed like a massive undertaking. There were certainly concerns about the areas we were traveling to, security, level of corruption in some of the places. There were risks on whether or not we could service a need from a medical perspective. All those things were obstacles that at times made it feel like maybe we wouldn't be able to make this possible. After visiting Luka for the first time and seeing the way that people lived, the suffering that they go through on a daily basis, to be able to in some way try and improve their lives, it was so important to me to make every effort that we could to make that happen. And even though at times it really felt like this was going to be an insurmountable task, by trusting in God, we knew that, and the people involved knew that we would be able to make this happen, that God would be able to make it happen. So when we show up on a site and we pull up and there are literally hundreds of people standing waiting that have walked miles to be able to see an American doctor or to get medicine, vitamins, mosquito nets that people have been able to help us provide to those individuals. They come up to us regularly and talk about how much they pray for us as a team to be able to come over and how grateful they are for the services that we provide. And to hear someone talking about how the glasses we provided are going to be able to help them to be able to read the Bible for the first time in years, to see the urgency in their eyes for the care that they need. It really, at the end of the day, makes you feel so good about what you've been able to accomplish. It certainly is the times when I feel spiritually the closest I have ever felt to being on the right path. There's certainly been hurdles to overcome. We've had instances where we've had pharmacists that have dropped out at the last minute, and by the grace of God, we've had somebody from New York that signed up The fact that we've had vans get stuck in the mud and in the middle of nowhere having a tractor show up that's able to pull us out. There are certainly times when we realize that God has his hand in what we're doing. It's amazing the issues that arise, and yet it all seems to work out. You know, I'm a software developer trying to take on medical missions. It certainly felt like a mountain that's a bit too big for me to climb. But what I've realized is that by just trusting in God, that nothing is too large for God to take on. And God's been able to make this possible.
Faith is kind of like this rock climbing wall. It is a long way to the top. Fear tells me to stay here on the ground. I will not get hurt down here. I won't fall. I won't make a fool of myself. Faith leads to courage, and courage says, I have this really cool opportunity in front of me. Courage says it means something to push yourself and accomplish something you have never done before. Courage says the best view is from the top. So I believe. I believe in the anchor. I have faith in the rope. I trust my guide, and I'm going to go for it.
Of the mountains I can't climb, I will lift my eyes to the corner of the ocean's raging wild. I will lift my eyes to the healer.
So that was really cool. It was kind of scary. It wasn't easy, but it was rewarding. I'm guessing, no. I actually know the people who had the dream to invest in boys in North Omaha back in 2007. They walk into this building and think, this is really cool. It was kind of scary, it wasn't easy, but it sure is rewarding. When trust and faith leads to courage and courage overcomes fear, that is where life happens. I don't want to wonder what might have been. I don't want you to wonder what might have been. I don't want us to wonder what might have been. Jesus concludes, to those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. It's true. We see this all the time in athletics, in business, in religion, education, and throughout life. Faith in God, faith in others, faith in self. Faith leads to courage that overcomes fear that will lead us to new heights in life. The Bible tells us, for we live by faith, not by sight. So let's start living by faith and reach new heights together.